If they can go into Jordan Hare Stadium and pull off I guess we'll call it an upset. I'm assuming the odds makers will probably favor Auburn in that one. If they can go in there and get the win, I mean, that would, be a nice momentum booster early in the season. Like you said, if hopefully they break up the Ohio State Michigan back-to-back weeks, but obviously you'd love to see them beat one of those teams. And then of course there's Michigan State, which frankly that's a game that still kind of infuriates me. I think if they had just maybe gone full air raid, even in the snow, they could have won that game. Alas, they didn't. So yeah, it's just like I said, take care of the games you absolutely should win, like Illinois, and then knock off one of those big three teams in your conference, and heck, you go get a win. You can get a win on the road at Auburn or yes, winning at Purdue to open the season would be nice. It would be a nice start to the season, even though maybe it's not like beating Wisconsin on the road was, but it's going to be a big thing. But yeah, it's definitely going to be. It's definitely going to be a kind of a crossroads type of season, at least just given how these last couple of years have gone. And I will say, I think even 9-3 and losing to the to Michigan State, and Ohio State would probably still be a step up from what we saw this year, because at least you're still beating all the teams you should beat, and maybe that you're in toss-ups with, which they didn't do this year. But maybe that's a discussion we can have in the Slack channel. We can just go on forever about that.
Yeah, no, I agree. That would definitely be a step up over this season. I mean, obviously 7 wins and 9 wins is an upgrade, but yeah, it's getting to the point where James Franklin needs to start beating those 3 more consistently. I mean, Ohio State's a little bit of a different monster for a lot of reasons, obviously. And another thing I think that made this season frustrating was prior to this season, they appeared to finally be turning a corner against the Michigan schools. Coming into this year, they had won 4 of their last 5 against Michigan and 3 of their last 5 against Michigan State. So they did appear to finally be getting the ship righted against those two. And then this year happened where they lost both of them. And like you said, the Michigan State game, if they just would have committed to that passing game, they'd probably win it. In the Michigan game, there's one of about 46 different plays I could point to that had they gone in Penn State's favor, they probably would have won. That was another game they easily could have, if not should have, won. So that just makes it even more frustrating. Those games are there for the taking this year.
Well, speaking of Ohio State, they are getting waxed a little right now by Utah. It's 14-0 Utah late first quarter in the Rose Bowl.
This is pretty wonderful to watch. It's a great way to cap off. I mean, I know I went on a big Twitter rant about this the other day, but and maybe this is just me having grown up in Big Ten country. I still think the Rose Bowl is special. It is by far the greatest bowl game, in my opinion. I think it is maybe the best sporting event in all of American sports. So I always love the Rose Bowl, and watching Ohio State get their teeth kicked in the Rose Bowl just makes it even better.
Yeah, it's with the caveat, of course. I think their best 2 receivers have opted out: Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, and Wilson, yeah.
So and of course, I actually did in my bold prediction pool, confidence pool, I should say. I picked Utah. I figured they would be the more motivated team in this one. I mean, this is the biggest game really in Utah football history. I mean, they probably brought the majority of fans.
I was gonna say the Utes have been playing some really good football too. They're definitely a team where if this year had a 12-team playoff, Utah would be in it. Obviously, having won the Pac-12, and I know I would not want to have to deal with Utah right now.
They would be, and I'll tell you what. I think I know we're delving now into but you know what? I think we've talked about everything Penn State we can at this point. But going on to playoff stuff, I do think the 12. People say, "Oh, you shouldn't expand to 12. It's going to run." Like, I don't know. I would have fun seeing how much damage Utah could do in a 12-team playoff. I mean, you're talking about those Cinderella teams in March Madness. I mean, it could be a pseudo version of that.
It would remind me a lot of, you get one of those NFL teams that gets hot down the stretch, just barely sneaks into the last wild card.
That's a better analogy.
Yeah, as someone who has lived in the Pittsburgh area my entire life. The 2006 Steelers, where they were like, I think like 6-6 or something, and then just got red hot, got the last wild card spot, did not lose again and won the Super Bowl. Like something like that, where a team just is playing great football at the right time and is super confident. And, anyone who's played sports out there will tell you sometimes the confidence is the hardest thing in the world to beat. If you go up against a team that's confident, even if you're more talented, that confidence can carry them.
Yeah, and I guess I don't know when we're going to get this 12-team playoff. They keep seeing reports like, oh, maybe it'll happen as soon as 2023, but now it's on pause, or at least they're going to wait till middle of this decade because they're working out a TV deal. I mean, it's going to obviously whenever it does expand, it's not going to be exclusively for ESPN. I'm sure. I would think Fox, maybe even CBS get a piece of the pie for the early round games. Let's just say, probably the semifinal final would still be on ESPN, but yeah, at the very least, you have other networks getting involved with a bigger playoff. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, look at the NFL. They have what games on what? Fox, CBS, ESPN, ABC. Why wouldn't college football want to do the same and maximize their profits?
Well, someone points out, but all but one or two of the bowl games currently are on the ESPN family of networks. And one of them was just going to be streaming on Barstool, which is, not even like a TV thing. So that's, then the other one was the Sun Bowl on CBS. So
there was the game NC State and UCLA. I forgot what bowl game they were. I think it was Holiday Bowl.
I guess 3.
That was another one that COVID took out. So
yeah, I guess COVID took out the 2 of the 3 that were going to be on a non-ESPN network. Only the Sun Bowl ended up actually airing. So yeah,
probably an evil empire joke about ESPN spreading COVID in there or something to make, but I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Probably. But anyway, Marty, any final thoughts before we head into the off season?
No, I don't think so. I mean, like I said, it's one of those seasons. The circle back to the very beginning of the show, as bad as it may sound, it's kind of nice to have it over. This was a season that went from looking like to be maybe one of the best ones of the James Franklin era to one that just went up in flames and fast. And honestly, the last 2 months of the season got to the point where there were a lot of days these games were tough to watch. And I know you and I had many conversations with others in the Slack channel where it's like, if we weren't having to cover this game for Black Shoe Diaries or you and I with our post-game show here, we probably wouldn't have watched some of them unfold. But yeah, no, it's nice to have it over. And as frustrating as it can be, like I said, you look at the Outback Bowl, a lot of the guys that they're going to look to play bigger roles next year stepped up and played a good game. There's a terrific recruiting class coming in. They're off to a good start in the portal with Mitchell Tinsley. I expect them to continue to hit the portal hard. And yeah, I think, I forget who it was that said this after the game. I think it might have been Ellie in the Slack channel, that it seems like when he's been at Penn State, when James Franklin has done his best is when his back's been against the wall. And his back is certainly against the wall right now. So, it was that way in 2016. It was that way to a lesser extent in 2019. And he always comes out swinging. So maybe that'll work in Penn State's favor, that he all of a sudden does have his back against the wall a little bit.
So James Franklin's kind of like you and I. We do our best work when our backs are against the wall and
exactly
it's pressure on us. So